Awesome. Hello, welcome to the information session for the McKnight Fellowship in Playwriting at the Playwright Center. Thanks to everybody joining us after the fact to watch this recording. I'm Julia Brown. I'm the Artistic Programs Manager here at Playwright Center. I use she, her pronouns, and I am here with...
Hi, I'm Hayley Finn. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Artistic Director at Playwright Center, and I'm really happy that you're joining us today.
We're going to start by talking a little bit about the program, which Hayley will kind of give an overview and some details about the program, and then I'll take you through the online application.
Great, thanks, Julia. Well, this program is here because of the McKnight Foundation. And I just want to say a word about the McKnight Foundation. For those of you who don't know, it's an amazing organization. And really, with this fellowship, their mission has been to make sure that artists in Minnesota have money so that they can thrive and do work and hopefully stay in this community and continue to create work here. And it's really, I have to say, been a boon to Minnesota. And it's not just this fellowship, but there are fellowships across the board in different disciplines. So we're very happy to be hosting the Playwriting Fellowship, which is what we're going to be talking about today. This particular fellowship recognizes playwrights who are mid-career and living in Minnesota, and they are demonstrating that they have a body of work. So that means this is not designated for an emerging or early career writer, but really for someone who has been working for a while and creating several plays. Also, the panel will be reviewing the artistic attributes and merits of the piece, I can talk a little bit about how that selection process will go as well a little bit later. But first, I want to let you know what this fellowship offers, which is $25,000. And in addition to that, you would receive $2,500 in play development support, which is developing your play or plays at the Playwright Center over the course of a year. And in addition to that, you would receive $1,400 in travel funds, which would allow you to go to other communities and see work or meet artistic directors or other artistic collaborators. So it really is a kind of a holistic approach to furthering your artistic development and career. So those are some of just the basics about the program. Let me see what else would be useful to know. Julie is going to be walking you through the application itself. But one of the things that I wanted to say is that this piece, that your work is reviewed by people who are not at the Playwright Center. And that's really important just to know up front, is that staff at the Playwright Center does not evaluate and does not select these writers. We end up being here to support the writers. And part of my role and Julia's role is we're working really to help advance your careers and to develop your work. But not selecting you. So we have a process for that, which Julia will talk through in a moment. Actually, and I'll pass it over to Julia now. And maybe, Julia, you could talk a bit about the application process, and then maybe I can jump in and talk a little bit about the artistic statement when we get to that point.
That's perfect. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And so here you can see the homepage of the Playwright Center, pwcenter.org. And so to find where all of this information lives, you go up to the top here where it says programs. Choose programs from the drop down, and here you'll see information about all of our different programs. If you are interested in looking at multiple fellowships, you are welcome to apply for as many fellowships as you're eligible for at the Playwright Center each year. So just take a look at that eligibility, but you can find all of those information, that information here. The one deadline that's already passed is the Jerome Fellowship. But here we'll click here on the fellowships in playwriting. And here we'll have all of the information kind of that Hayley just went over, a reminder of the fellowship term, which would begin next July 1st, July 1 of 2022, and it'll run for the full year. What the benefits are And then a little bit about eligibility. As Hayley mentioned, this is for a mid-career writer based in Minnesota. And so we're defining that as somebody who's been a continuous resident of Minnesota for at least 1 year leading up to the application deadline. So in that case, it means you'd have to live in Minnesota since at least December 9th of 2020. So make sure you're paying attention to that as well. And then you need to have had a minimum of one play fully produced by a professional theater by the time that you apply. So that's how we're defining a mid-career playwright. Now, we know that a lot of people's lives and work were interrupted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so if you had a professional production that was programmed, that was in rehearsal, that got canceled or postponed, that can count towards your eligibility. We don't want you to be penalized for forces outside of your control when it comes to being eligible for this program. So we'll just ask that you make sure you note on your resume if a piece was postponed, was canceled, things like that, so that we can properly determine your eligibility. So now we'll look down. Oh, and I also just want to note that full-time students of any level, undergrad, grad, PhD programs are not eligible for this program. And then staff and board members of either the McKnight Foundation or Playwright Center and their immediate family aren't eligible for this program as well.
Julie, I just wanted to note one other thing, because this question comes up quite often is, what is considered a professional production? And that is really a production, we're defining it as a production where the artists get paid. So everyone in the project is getting paid for their work.
Yes, absolutely. And it would need to be a full-length play, so running at least 45 minutes in production. Everyone's paid, and we say paid for their work. So not here's $10 for parking, here's a bus pass, but an actual compensation for their labor on the project. And it does, sometimes people ask, what if I had non-equity actors? As long as they were paid for their work, that does count as professional. If you want to talk about any specific situations, you're not quite sure how a particular production works, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk through it with you. One quick note that if you're currently a core writer at the Playwright Center, you can apply for this program if you're eligible. And then if you're selected, you would your core benefits would kind of add another year and you would have your McKnight Fellowship for the next year. So that's how that works. And you are only able to apply for one McKnight Artist Fellowship per year in any discipline. If you're a multidisciplinary artist, or if you're a playwright who also does community-based work and are interested in that fellowship, you'll just need to choose each year which one you're going to apply for. If we keep looking, we can see the statement of the community values of the McKnight Foundation. So do take a look at that to get an idea of sort of the inspiration behind their programming and what's important to McKnight. And then you'll see a breakdown of all of the application parts, which I'll be going over in detail in just a second. Here's my email address. If you have questions about anything, please do use it as much as you would like. And then a quick note that you will need to make a new account in SlideRoom, which I'll show you right now. So this happy button here to access the application, that is where we will go. And now that's taken us away from the Playwright Center page to a platform called SlideRoom. So if you're a current member of the Playwright Center, you may be used to logging into the Playwright Center page to access your membership profile. This is actually a completely separate website. So you will need to set up a completely new account if you've never used this before. So sometimes that's a little confusing. You can totally use the same password. It's just we'll need to click this sign up button here in the upper right corner. I already have an account, so I'm going to put in my information. Typed it right. Didn't type it right. 1 second. There we go. And now you can see we are here at this page that has the same summary that we just looked at. As a reminder, the deadline is December 9th of this year, so in about a month. And here we can see a preview of all of the things that you're going to be asked on the application if you'd like to look at that in advance. But we'll click this blue Begin Application button. In general, in Slide Room, active links are blue. So if you're looking for, what do I click on when I'm done? The blue is where you want to be looking. So first, we're going to ask you for some contact information. So I'll put in my info and then a mailing address. This is especially important for this program because it does have a residency component. So we will be checking and making sure that you live in Minnesota. Pronouns, this is optional, but it is helpful while the evaluators talk about your work. They want to be able to refer to you in the most accurate and respectful way that we can. And then we ask for the title of the script that you're going to submit. This isn't the name of maybe a script that you want to write on the fellowship. This is the actual script that you're attaching with this application. And then we ask, how did you hear about the program, which helps us to evaluate our outreach and figure out exactly how we're reaching writers around the state. Now we've got some eligibility questions. So first it's going to ask about residency. If you've been a continuous resident since at least December 9th of 2020, you'll have to answer yes. If you answer no or answer ineligible in any of these questions, Slide Room won't kick you out, but I will be reviewing everybody's application for eligibility. And so if there is an issue, I'll be reaching out to you. So if you're not eligible, you can save yourself some time and look at another program. Again, if you have any questions about any of these eligibility points, just reach out to me and we can talk through it. Next is going to ask if I've received a McKnight Artist Fellowship in any discipline. I will say no. If I say yes, you'll see some more questions about what discipline that was in and what year. The reason we ask this is because the McKnight Foundation requires a 5-year sit-out period. So if you received a McKnight Artist Fellowship, you're not eligible for any other McKnight Artist Fellowships until 5 years have passed. Then we have the question about a full-length play being fully produced, as we talked about earlier. So I will say, yes, I have had a work produced. And then the next question is a general question about eligibility. So it breaks down all of these eligibility rules again. One last eligibility detail is that you will need to have the legal right to work and be paid in the US. We don't have a citizenship requirement, but because we do need to pay you out this $25,000 stipend, we just need to make sure that you have whatever documents you need to be able to do that. So I will click yes, I'm eligible to apply. And then this question says, I understand I can only apply to one McKnight Fellowship in any artistic discipline in the 2022 program year. So this is, as I mentioned before, you'll have to pick which discipline if you are a multidisciplinary artist. And you can see here what other disciplines the McKnight Foundation does support. So if you have questions about that, do let me know. So I will say I have not applied to a McKnight Fellowship in any other discipline this year. And then again, here's this community values statement that you can read and take some time with. Ooh, I'll do that. I'll say, yes, I've read the statement, and then I certify that this is all my work and it's all true. You'll see that it auto saves, but you can also always kind of click the save button if you want to be extra secure. To move on, you can either click continue down here or the next button up here. Along the top, you'll see there's 3 stages to this application. And so you can kind of check where you are up there. The next form is our demographic information form. And this, contrary to the first form we just filled out, this is only accessible to Playwright Center staff. So myself, Hayley, and our producing artistic director, Jeremy Cohen, are the only people who have access to this. The reviewers, the evaluators, and the panelists who make the selection decisions do not have access to this form. So that means whatever information here, you're only sharing it with Playwright Center staff. It also means that if you do want your evaluators to have any demographic information about you, you need to make sure that's somewhere else in your application, like your artistic statement, something like that. So
I just wanted to add that the reason why we ask this information is that we want to make sure that we're doing good outreach and getting a diverse group of applicants. And so that's really what this is about.
Yep, absolutely.
Our work rather than your work.
Yes. And you can see here, question 1 is just as Hayley said, why we gather the information, what we will do with the data that we have. And so I'll click yes, I have read the explanation. If you ever need to change your answer or things like that, you can click these clear answer buttons. The first demographic question is, how do you identify in terms of race and or ethnicity? You can see I've filled out some applications in the past, and so you may be prompted to answers that you've used before, so that can save you a little time if you would like. You are always welcome to write decline to state if you would prefer not to share that information with Playwright Center. Then it asks about gender. The next question, do you identify as LGBTQIA+? Yes, no, unsure, decline to state, or other, whatever you're comfortable with. Then we ask if you identify as a person with a disability and or as neurodivergent. So this can mean physical and learning disabilities, mental illnesses and disorders, low vision and blindness, hard of hearing and deafness, chronic pain, etc. So you can choose whichever answer works best to you. And then the follow-up question to that, which is totally optional, is if you would like to expand and talk a little bit about your experience of disability and or neurodivergence. And this is helpful for us, as Hayley mentioned, to both understand who we're reaching, but also as we try to make our programs and the application processes more accessible and equitable, it can be helpful to find out, if people need certain accommodations or have accessibility needs, and if there are ways that we can reflect them and serve people better during this process. Then it'll ask for age, and we're basically asking for under 40 or over 40. And then it'll ask for annual household income, and a place to find that, if you don't know off the top of your head, would be what you reported on your 2020 taxes. And if you're married and you file jointly, that would be the number to use in terms of your household. And then we can see save changes here at the bottom, and we continue to the next step. So again, this page is the only one that's not visible to the evaluators. So as we go on, all of these attachments are what the evaluators will be reading. You can see here at the top that we guide our evaluators to score parts of the application in a particular way. So the artistic statement and all your supplementary materials are weighted about 25%, and the script is weighted 75%. So you can see the script is really the big major part of the evaluation of your application. So the first thing you'll attach here is your playwriting resume. It's very important for this resume to include which of your productions are professional. So because this is what I look at to make sure that you are in fact eligible. So you can mark that with an asterisk, with a little note, with a bold or an underline or a highlight, just indicate in some way, hey, this is the one, or these are the professional productions on my resume. Again, if things were postponed or canceled because of COVID, you'll want to mark that as well, so that we know that it was something that was programmed before you applied for this program, so that we can make sure that you're eligible. In terms of what else to include on your resume, that's completely up to you. If you just want to include your playwriting work, if you want to include education, other artistic disciplines, other professional experience, just think about kind of what is the package you're providing to the evaluators and how you want to tell the story of who you are as an artist and where you are in your career right now. So I'm going to choose a file from my lovely application files. You'll see here that we only accept a PDF or a Word document. The Slide Room platform can only open those two types of documents. So do be aware if you work in, for example, Pages or TextEdit or Final Draft or things like that, you'll want to make sure that you convert the document to either a PDF or a Word document. If you upload something in a different form, you're just going to get an email from me saying, hey, I can't open this document, please change it. If you uploaded the wrong thing, you can always change it out by clicking this little trash can. And the next thing that we will ask for is the artistic statement. So this is the place to talk about your artistic goals, your vision as a theater maker, why you make theater, where you are in your career right now and where you hope to go. And also, this provides some context around the play that you're submitting and how it fits into your body of work and kind of where you're going. Hayley, did you want to talk a little more about artistic statement?
I think you covered it very well. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on what Julia was saying around the artistic statement and how it works in conjunction with the play. That there are actually, I'd say, over the years, the applicants I've seen have been most successful in the process have had some sort of relationship between their artistic statement and the play, and whether that is this is very exemplary of the kind of work I want to keep doing, or I see my work going in a different direction, and explaining a little bit more about what your vision is for yourself in the future. So that the panelists can really understand sort of who you are as an artist, or where you've been, but really what is your path forward, what is your vision, what is your hope, what do you want to be working on. So I think that keeping that in mind as you approach the artistic statement.
That is fabulous. And just to say, if you are watching this recording during the month of November, we are actually going to be hosting a working session on creating artistic statements. That will happen on Monday, November 29th in the evening. And that will happen on Zoom. We'll be hosting it with Springboard for the Arts. So do keep an eye on that. I'll put the information about the session on the program website. But you can also reach out to me with any questions if you'd like a little extra help in creating your artistic statement. So again, I will choose either a Word doc or a PDF to upload that. And you can see you'll always get kind of a little preview. So you can kind of double check and make sure, oh yeah, that's what my artistic statement looks like. And then finally, your full-length play script. As we mentioned, this is kind of the really big meat and potatoes part of the application. A full-length play, we're defining that as something that runs at least 45 minutes in production. If you want to have any questions about that, or you have something that runs a different time, but it's a slightly different form or things like that, you can reach out to me and we can talk about it. But that's kind of, we've had to define what full-length means for the purposes of this application, and that's what we've chosen. This does need to be written by you. So no co-written plays, because basically this is an individual fellowship for one writer, or each fellowship is for one writer. And so the evaluators need to be able to actually evaluate your work and know what it was that you wrote. So if it is a musical, then you need to be the book writer in order to submit it. And then you'll need to specify if you wrote the lyrics, if someone else wrote the lyrics, kind of how that split out in order for them to evaluate you. So we will choose our script sample. If you are a previous McKnight Fellow, then the script that you submit needs to have been written after your last McKnight Fellowship. So if you received the fellowship in 2010, then you need to pick a script that was written 2010 or later. Sometimes people ask, what's the strongest script to apply with? And I would recommend choosing a script that's the best representation of your work at this moment in your career. The evaluator is looking at this whole package of all these documents that you're getting together, and they're really using it to, what you want is for them to get really excited about your body of work, about you as an artist, and where you're going next. I would say sometimes when people use an older play, 5 years old or older, sometimes there's a question with the evaluators of what have they been doing since then. So if you are going to use an older script, I would recommend using part of your artist statement to kind of talk about, here's the script that I'm applying with, here's why I chose it, and here's what I've been doing since, and here's where I see myself going. I also recommend a script that is completed. Sometimes in the past, applicants have used a script that isn't fully finished, and that tends to just not be as competitive as a script that actually has the full draft and is complete. Anything else about the script, Hayley, that you want to add?
I would just say again what Julia said in the beginning is that we completely understand because of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people's careers have taken different turns or been a bit stalled or divergent. So I would say, many people I know, have had trouble writing in some recent years. And so I think the panelists really understand that if the script is a little bit older than maybe in some other years that people have been looking at it. I think everybody understands exactly, unfortunately, how challenging it has been for theater artists in the past couple of years.
Absolutely. The last document that we'll ask for is the references. And so as different from other programs that we have, we're not asking for formal letters of recommendation written by your collaborators, but we are asking for the name and contact information of two people who are familiar with your work and who we can contact during the evaluation process if we need to talk about you as a playwright. So that can just be, again, a simple Word doc PDF with the person's name, their email, their phone, and maybe a title or some little context of who they are and how they know you. I'll just upload this document to work for that. And then all of my documents are good. I can see a little preview of all of them. And then I'll hit next. And now we're already to the end of the application, to the submit page. A quick note here that once you submit it, you cannot make any other changes. Now, if you submit before the application deadline and you realize, oh, I have an updated resume, or I actually just finished a new draft of the script and I want to switch it out, you can contact me and I can unsubmit your application. And as long as you resubmit before the application deadline, then you're totally fine. After the application deadline, we can't make any changes because we will have moved your script onto the evaluators. They're already reading. It's too late to swap any documents out. A little bit about how the process works. So once you apply, I will double check all of your application to make sure that you're eligible and also that all of the documents have uploaded correctly. So you might get a question from me if I'm saying, does the play really end in the middle of that line? Or, your resume document's blank or something like that. All of that, we just want to make sure that the documents work for the readers. It's not going to count against you if we need to make some adjustments or correct anything like that. Then it will go on to a first round where your work will be read by at least 2 different evaluators. And our evaluator pool is a very wide-reaching pool of theater professionals that can be freelance directors and dramaturgs, artistic directors, literary managers, educators, and of course, other playwrights. A lot of playwrights who have been on fellowship with the Playwright Center currently or in the past. They read your application, they provide detailed comments and scores, and then based on that feedback, we narrow the pool down to a finalist list, and the finalists will go on to a selection panel of 3 artists who come from diverse backgrounds, diverse aesthetics, different positions within the theater field, and they do a lot of in-depth reading of the work and discussing the work. And from there, the fellows are chosen. So that's a little bit how it goes. And as Hayley mentioned, Playwright Center staff facilitates this process, but we don't participate in the process. We at no point give our personal feedback or opinions or our suggestions in terms of who is selected. We just make the space and the process for our colleagues to make the selections. And now it says we are ready to submit, which is great. If you'd like to review your application and make sure everything is accurate before you submit, this is your kind of last chance to do that. And then we click submit. Now we get the happy green check mark, which means it happens. You successfully submitted. You can save this confirmation number if you want. You do not need it. If I need to look up your application, I can look it up by your name, but I know some people feel comfortable when they have official things like confirmation numbers. So feel free to save that. You can print this confirmation page. You can print a copy of your full application if that helps for your records. And then you'll see this message here. You'll be hearing from us either way by the end of April. That's kind of when we anticipate this whole selection process will wrap up. And because this takes so much time and effort to create an application and to submit, we want to offer 3 free months of Playwright Center membership if you'd like to take advantage of that. So you can see there's a coupon code here. And if you have questions about the membership program or anything like that, you can see the contact information for our colleague Hannah Joyce here, who's the director of the membership programs. But we hope if you aren't currently a member, you can check it out and see if those resources are useful to you. And as always, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I can help you out. And Slide Room also provides you with this dashboard. So if you're applying for a couple of different programs at Playwright Center or at other organizations that use Slide Room, you can see them all here. So if you're working on McKnight and Core Writer or something like that, you can kind of be toggling between your applications here. And if you need to change anything about your Slide Room account, for example, if you've moved, you have a new email address, you need to update maybe you have a different name or you're writing under a different name. What you can do is go to your account information and make the edits there. So just as a reminder, the name on your Slide Room account is the name that's going to pop up with your application. So I know some people write under a different name than they then are associated with their address, etc. So you just that's where you can make that update if you need to. There's also a really useful support with Slide Room. Their tech support is super responsive, and they work, I believe, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time during all the weekdays. So if you click Contact Support, you can write to them if you have any technical issues. But that is the application overall. I'll stop my screen share and toss it back to Hayley if there's anything else that you want to mention.
No, I would just say that we're really excited that you joined us today, and feel free to reach out anytime. Julia obviously left her email. If you want to reach me, you can also reach me at hayleyf@pwcenter.org. We look forward to meeting you sometime in person. And also hopefully, come and check out other things that are happening at the Playwright Center, readings and conversations, etc. Be lovely to see you here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.